Okay, today I'm going to show you how to use the pivot table that you created in the first video to pull in information for the prime contractors who received those awards, and then show you how to look up their contact information in their SAM registration and the dynamic small business search so that you can contact them for potential subcontract opportunities on any existing government contracts that they have or contracts that they're going to participate in the future. So to do that, go ahead and open up the pivot table you created in the first video. And we're not going to pull any new data into USA Spending unless you want to or need to. We're just going to create the pivot table from one of our existing sets of data. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use the NAICS data, and I'm going to click on that worksheet here, which is actually already selected. And we'll create the pivot table from this data. So again, you're just going to navigate to the top of your screen and click on Insert, click on Pivot Table. You'll leave this data alone and it's going to go into a new worksheet, which is what we want, and you'll click OK. We'll go ahead and first rename this sheet, so hover your cursor over on the bottom where it says Sheet 2, right click, and then click on Rename, and we're going to call this Prime Pivot. And then navigate to the right of your screen under the pivot table fields, and we'll go ahead and put the fields in alphabetical order the same way we did in the previous video. So click on that down arrow next to the gear icon and choose Sort A to Z. So instead of pulling in the agency information, this time we're going to pull in the recipient information. So scroll down your list of fields down until you get to the R's, and you're looking for recipient name, which I've located here in our list. You're going to click on it with your mouse, drag, and drop it down into the rows box. And then you want to drag in their DUNS number. And we're looking for recipient DUNS. So this one here, I'm going to click it again and drag it and drop it down into our rows box. Now we also want to see the dollar amounts. So go back up to Federal Action Obligation that you pulled in the first pivot tables, and you're going to click on it, drag it down into values. And then again, we're going to sort our table so that the numbers are highest to lowest. So click and select the field of the bold dollar amount next to the first company that you have on your list so that this is selected. And you can navigate to your Home tab, click on Sort and Filter, largest to smallest. Or from inside of your spreadsheet, you can actually right click, go down to Sort, and select largest to smallest, either way. And we also like to see the dollar signs and the commas, so go ahead and click on the B to highlight the entire column. Hover your mouse anywhere where it's highlighted in gray, right click, click on Format Cells, and click on Currency, click OK. So now you have everything in dollar format. And similar to the top agencies, you probably most likely will want to pay attention to those primes that do quite a bit of federal contracting. In this case, I'm going to want to pay attention to these first few because I know that they're doing quite a bit of work over the last 3 years in Montana. Whereas some of these smaller companies, this is over 3 years, so it may not be worth reaching out to them for subcontract work. Now there's 2 ways to go about prime contract information. One is that some of the primes may not be located in Montana and actually would need local subs to help complete the contract. So when we look up their information in SAM, we want to pay attention to whether they're in-state or out-of-state. But the other thing is if you work in an industry that supports another industry, you actually may want to pull in a different set of data on using a different NAICS code. And what I mean by this is if, for example, you are a painter who supports, let's say, the construction industry, you can go ahead and pull in the data for under the painter code, but it would probably also do you some justice to pull the data from USA Spending using one of the main construction codes and contact those prime contractors to find out if your painting services could be used on any existing construction contracts that they have or anything in the future. So there's a couple ways to go about it. But in this example, I'm just going to use, I pulled in the prime data just for that janitorial code. So I'm going to go ahead and use the top one, and I'm going to copy this DUNS number, but first I noticed that this DUNS number is only 8 characters long, or 8 numbers long, and I'm going to need to put a preceding 0 when I go to look them up in SAM. So if there's only 8 numbers, you need to put 1 0 in front. If there's 7, you need to put 2. So I'm going to select this cell, which it is selected already, and then I'll right-click and hit copy. And then I'm going to navigate to my web browser, so I have one open already. And in my web browser, I'm going to visit the website sam.gov. You make sure that if you do a Google search, instead of typing in the website, that you click on the correct website. It should be sam.gov, no .coms. And make sure that the website you're looking at looks like this. There are some other websites out there that often show at the top of a Google search, and those companies will want to charge you for SAM. And SAM is always free, so just remember that. Now we're going to perform this search as an external view because we can't be logged in to look at their information. So what we'll do first is navigate to the top of the web page, and you'll want to click on Search Records. And then come down to the quick search box, and under DUNS number, you'll place your cursor in that field, you'll right click and hit paste. And remember, I needed a preceding 0, so this is where I'm going to go ahead and type that. And I'm going to hit search. Now this is what comes up. You may see from time to time that nothing will show up here. It'll say no results. If that happens, first try clicking inactive in addition to active and reapply the filters. Sometimes companies let their SAM registration lapse, and so it'll go inactive if they do that, but you can still look at the information even though it's inactive. If you ever see a result that says access to this entity is restricted, they've opted out of the public view, you unfortunately will not be able to see that information because there is an option in the SAM registration to be opted out of the public view. We at PTAC don't recommend that. It does make it difficult for federal agencies to find you, so we recommend keeping that box clicked. So to view their information, you'll want to click on View Details. And the first thing that I noticed is that this company is located in Spokane, Washington, so they're out of state. And so this could be a good sign that they may need some in-state subcontracting to help with janitorial work. But to find the actual contact person, I want to navigate to the left of the screen under POCs, which stands for Point of Contact, and I'm going to click. And if you scroll down, you'll see a list of several different point of contacts. Some companies put the same person in all these fields, but they're likely 1 or 2 people in here. The first person that I would start with is Colette, because she's the government business point of contact. And then from there, if I don't get a response from her, or maybe she's not the correct person to talk to, I would want to ask her who is, but I may also try Brian, who's their alternate government business point of contact. And that's who you should be starting with. Now we only have a phone number for Colette, We don't have an email because that is information that's not visible from an external view without being logged in under their profile. But if this business is a small business, there's another database you can view their email address in, and it's called the Dynamic Small Business Search, or DSBS, which is a database managed by the SBA. You access your SBA profile through your SAM registration, and if you're a small business, you'll have the option to do so. So the first thing you need to do is figure out if they are a small business or not. To do that, you'll want to navigate again to the left-hand side, and you'll want to click on Reps and Certs. And you'll scroll down the page until you find a section called Small Business Program Representations, FAR 52219-1. I'm going to click on the hyperlink next to it because it's going to expand. Now this company has this sentence here that says, if no NAICS table is displayed, this registrant may not be considered a small business. I don't see this on very many profiles. Even with large and small businesses, when you expand this section, there's a table here that shows all their NAICS codes on their SAM and a Y or an N for yes or no if they're considered small. So that's one way to find out if they're small per their NAICS code. Since there's no table on this one, the other way to look at it is to scroll down a little bit until you come to section C under representations, and you'll see here the offer represents as part of its offer that it is not a small business. So I know they're not small, which means they will not be in the dynamic small business search, which also means I'm going to have to call the person listed in their SAM, but I may have to find an alternative method to get an email address if I want to reach out both from phone and email. We recommend reaching out through email first if you are able to get an email, and then following up with a phone call. Now, to find out if a business is small, to find their email address, I do want to demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to go back to my pivot table, and I'm going to scroll down my list here until I find someone I think is a small business. And a good indication is these individuals who are under their personal name, they're sole proprietors. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight this DUNS number and right click and copy, and then come back to my web browser. And I'm going to open up a new window, and I'm just going to search for Dynamics Small Business Search. Now for this website, you got to make sure that you look for sba.gov. You don't want any of these other ones that are like uscontractregistration.com. You're looking for sba.gov, and this is the correct one because it says dsbs.sba.gov. So we know we want to click on this one here. And then at the top of the page, we want to click on DSBS. And now we're inside of the search criteria that you can use to find a small business. This database can be used for other reasons. You may be able to, it may be one way to find subcontractors. Searching by NAICS code, you can search by state and county within the state. There's lots of criteria here to select. You can select a socioeconomic status, etc. But for this purpose of today, we just want to find their DUNS number. So I think that is, I'm just going to repaste that in here. So DUNS number is down here towards the bottom of the page. And it's nine digits, so I don't need to put a preceding 0 in, but if you are short a digit, you need to make sure and put the preceding 0 in this database as well. Now under status, this has to do with their SAM status. I am going to click expired also, just in case they've let their SAM registration lapse. Otherwise it won't show up. If it has lapsed and I only leave it as active, it won't show up. And then scroll to the bottom and hit search using this criteria. And I see her information here. I'm going to click on her name, and you can see her phone number and fax, which should be visible from Sam, but then her email address is here. So, provided the email address is still correct, this would be another way to reach out. So that concludes this video. There will be a third video that will demonstrate how to use the pivot table and cross-referencing with a spreadsheet and FedBizOps. I will show you how to look up contact information from the office of the agencies who are awarding contracts based on the NAICS, the awarding information that you've pulled in from USA Spending using either NAICS or PSC code. So I'll be able to show you how to find specific contact information on the next video.